Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Hey folks, welcome back to Adeptus On-Air, the official podcast mouthpiece of Adeptus Partners. So, those of you who know me know that I've been around the podcast space for many years. So it takes a lot for me to really get super excited about having a very special guest in our proverbial studio. So Jim Dorey, besides being the CEO of Inserra supermarkets, is also a dear friend. And I think, Jim, the best way for me to start, and this is from the bottom of the heart, is that like ourselves in the service business, and in many ways, you guys in the service business, I think it takes people who are authentic, who really got values, who care. And I don't know about you, but I'm finding that the whole service business has changed as much as a lot of the good old values that you and I hold dear to our heart and the way we approach life is becoming more and more of a rarity. I don't see it so much in the younger generation. What are your thoughts? Firstly, welcome, Jim. Great to have you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for having me. And I know it's going to be a great conversation because every time I speak with you, I start with a smile and end with a smile. So looking forward to it. Yeah, listen, I think you're spot on. When it comes to service, it is a skill. It is maybe a bit of a lost skill. A lot of people aren't coming, younger people aren't coming up wanting to go into the business. But that being said, we're able to find some gems, and sort through it and bring along the ones and indoctrinate them into our business. So we're finding a way to get it done. But I certainly agree that it is harder to do.
Because I want our listeners, our clients, not only to get a sense of your business, but get a sense of you. I think the reason why you and I just hit it off from the word go is I grew up very humble means financially. I grew up with a family with tremendous work ethic. I remember just folks that know that no shortcuts, a lot of hard work, suit up and show up. And then obviously our Harvard connection. Give us just a bit of a sense so we got a context of you as a person, just sort of your formative years and the things along the way that really inculcate certain values into the man I know and love.
No, thanks so much. Yeah, I'll tell you. So grew up the youngest of five in northern New Jersey in the U.S., not too far from New York City. I'd say a hardworking family, probably be the best way to describe it. From a very, very young age, we were out there getting jobs, and you kind of think the jobs that existed then don't now. And one of the first ones was being a paper boy, going door to door and dropping off these papers. And the funny part was we grew up in an area called the Valley, and it was called that because there were huge hills. So when you think about going up and down those hills for about 35 cents a week from each household, it wasn't the greatest business. But it did teach me early on. One story I share all the time is I was probably only about 10 years old. You had a customer who, back then you would leave an envelope, they would leave payment, you'd bring them the papers. So probably 5, 6, 7 weeks goes by and this customer's leaving an empty envelope. So I knock on the door on a Sunday morning at about 6 a.m., banging on the door. All of a sudden, finally the guy comes, he's all disheveled and he's in a robe and he's looking at this little kid at the door. He says, "Who the heck are you?" I said, "I'm the paper boy." I said, "I've been bringing this paper for 8 weeks and you haven't paid me. I need to get paid now." He kind of looked at me and I'm thinking, this guy's either going to kill me or he's going to pay me. He turned around, came back. He gave me a 20. I said, do you need the change? He said, "Keep the change." I said, "Do you still want the paper?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You going to pay me every week?" He said, "Yeah." So
unbelievable.
So, and I think back to that and it's, the boldness to be able to do it, the lessons that you learned. From there, my family had a small family business. My father was a Teamster truck driver, but we also had a family deli, a corner deli, which was really like
I saw that pizza and deli,
for the neighborhood. So as a very young age, I'd be back there cleaning pots and pans and making sandwiches and coffee.
Wow.
I was able at a young age to meet a lot of older people from all walks of earth and just sit back and listen to the lessons they would bring and see how their day was going. And that was just a world of lessons. And then,
Amazing that, hey?
working side by side with the family, you got a lot of real street education there that I think served me well.
Did you ever, in that situation, it can go either way. I think you and I are wired in a similar way, but you could either feel sorry for yourself, saying, "I'm this kid busting my chops, in the grime of cleaning the kitchen, and woe is me," or "This is amazing. I've got a family that loves me. I'm getting experience. I'm getting to have live interaction with adults." It seems like you lean the latter, right?
Yeah, I think when you're in the moment at that age, you probably don't appreciate as much. So I look back and say I'm glad that I was listening more than speaking back then. But yeah, without a doubt, you never felt it. Sometimes you said, hey, you noticed there were people that had more than you, obviously, and you noticed that some bills went a little longer without getting paid, and just some of the grind. Went to a public school and commuted there while I worked through it all. But the beauty of it there was I met a lot of people who were first generation in this country, first generation to go to their school. So they were all doing multiple jobs while they put themselves through school. And it kind of gave me that you got to see these are real people. And the professors were similar too. They were working and doing the job. And it really helped mold me. And you never, at the time, you never feel bad about it. But I also looked and said, I knew I was working harder than a lot of people. I always look back to, I wrestled a little bit in high school too. And one day it was Super Bowl Sunday. And I said, I'm going to run. I'm going to work out today. And as I'm running, I'm thinking everybody else is probably watching this game right now. So at that point, I said, I'm getting this edge on everyone else. And I always like that. And I still think of that today. I'm doing an early morning workout. I'm thinking, where is everybody else in my role right now? And I want to just keep working to stay out in front of them.
You see, I think one thing that you and I have in common is that I think that in life, some people coast, they're comfortable, mediocrity. But if you really want to be a little bit ahead of the pack, it takes hard work, it takes pain, and that's the price you pay. And there's no shortcuts.
Yeah, no doubt. Seeing a lot of people along the way too that made bad decisions. At a young age, being exposed to adults, and some of them ended up in legal troubles and chasing things, and just you kind of looked and I heard a priest say one day, everybody is good for something, even if it's a bad example. And sometimes I learned from some of these people and said, I know I don't want to be that way. And I know I don't want that stress of how I'm going to pay the mortgage. So here's the road to go that way. And, you make decisions. Not all of them are great, but it certainly helps.
So it's interesting, the podcast that I have outside of Adeptus On-Air, the tagline, Antony Gordon Show, the tagline is "Lessons for Life I Did Not Learn at Harvard." So it sounds like even though you and I shared the honor of the sojourn at Harvard, a lot of our life lessons, come from the University of Life.
No doubt. I use the tagline with my children, and I say, there's the moments that break us, the moments that make us, and the moments that shape us. And a lot of these things, really bad experiences, really bad people you came up with, or bad interactions, and really great people. When you look back at all those moments, you could go one way or another with what you learned from those situations. And, I think collectively, all of those things make you what you are today. And we're still, we're still going through it. And, you're going to have an interaction today that's going to make you think in a different way. So, it's like you're this clay and you keep getting molded. And if you're smart enough to not be too rigid and break, you can make things work out really well.
That's very, do you find your life outlook and your life philosophy spills over into the way you run the business, the way you interact with the staff, your employees? Because it seems like you are a very real, authentic, consistent guy, whether you're in the office, whether you're with your wife and kids, whether you're watching a ball game.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm active on LinkedIn. I have a lot of posts from our stores and from our interactions, and I want that to be who I am when I'm, at home or where I'm in our stores or in a meeting. And you want to treat people really well, give them the chance to do the right thing. You get an opportunity to meet so many phenomenal people. Like you and I, we developed this friendship and this brotherhood that, there's so many people you come across. And when you meet the great ones, You want to make them part of your circle and part of your network.
Yeah.
And you want people to look at you and say, that's the real Antony. That's what you get all the time, always.
Yeah.
So I hope so.
No, I think that's the case, Steve. So take us through how did your life journey meander into, I guess, the supermarket broad space. But let's start off with that, and then I want to get a real sense, because I think a lot of our listeners want to get your thoughts on you in the trenches, your day-to-day. I think the sense of the morale of people, the economy, I think you see it and feel it a lot more than guys, on the 37th floor, working for Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, listen, I had a customer today yelling at me about the price of eggs. So it's as real as you can get. And it is that education that is forced on you every day. Yeah, so I again started, working through the family businesses in college, came out with a couple different jobs, kind of finding my way, a couple small businesses. Then at one point, I found my niche in sales and marketing, and was really doing some work that I liked. And, I was in the New York region, some environmental based monitoring systems. But always part of my routine was working out early in the mornings. So going back 25 years ago or more, we would be at this gym that opened up at 5:30 in the morning. We had a group of folks. Some of them were older than me at the time. That we became very friendly, social. Fast forward, turns out one of them was the president of Wakefern Foods, Dean Janeway, who was a dear friend and family and a mentor to me. And after knowing him for 5 or 6 years, he said, "I want you to come to work at Wakefern." So I said, "Okay, Dean, well, I'm not in the supermarket business, I'm sales and marketing." He said, "Listen, we have, a great business. We have a lot of senior executives that will be leaving in the next couple of years, and we're building up a bench. So this is a way for you to get in the door." He said, "I know how you are with people and relationships. The rest will come to you." And, fortunately, that was just about 20 years ago. I joined and was able to, get in and work through all different positions. And it's just been a phenomenal journey that the last 12 to 13 years, I was running the retail end of things because we had wholesale and retail. And that was where I got the opportunity to come work for the Inserra family, who is, we're a cooperative. So there's 48 families, and the Inserra is one of those families, and just beautiful people with a great business, and, an honor to work as their chief operating officer.
So it's interesting. I think your break into the business, Jim, and a lot of what I've learned about you, and I think, again, we have this in common, and certainly in the professional service business, this is a theme. It's not about transactions, it's about relationships. It's about building for the long term. And the one commodity that takes time and authenticity is trust. You can't possibly develop trust on a one phone call. And I think I always tell, kids that I'm involved in mentoring that if you say what you mean and mean what you say and you deliver, the only way that people know that you're reliable is that if they can rely on you and that you do what you're going to say, because so many people, their words are very cheap, and then when they have someone who's there at 3 o'clock, who, I'm going to get you some merch, and it's such an unbelievable differentiator. So I think that I see that you are being a man of your word and a wholesome person. That you get a feeling that the person on the other side doesn't feel that they're being used. You're showing that you really care.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it comes with the value of knowing that every person, every role in our company, they're showing up. They have a job to do. They have a family that they want to take care of. They want to do the right thing every day, and they want to be treated right. So when you do the hard jobs, and I think everybody should clean some toilets somewhere in their life, because you get to appreciate it, and doing the hard work, and working overnight shifts. And I've been through a million different jobs, and I think every one of them makes you appreciate it. So when you walk in and you see, whatever they're doing it with pride. You make them feel appreciated and let them know that you respect what they're doing, that they're critical to the company's success. The people start to get that. And the first time you talk to them, they may not really believe you and think, this is just somebody, making me feel good. The second and third time, they start to understand that you have a relationship. And that's what's important, right? I mean, we say together we are better. That's our tagline for our company. And together is our vendors, it's our associates, it's our customers, the community. And when everybody's feeling good and it's got a smile on their face, even while they're working hard, it just makes the day a lot better, makes the world a lot better.
I've never felt this sense, since I've been in this country, of divisiveness. I've never felt this sense of anxiety that people are freaking out in terms of what's happening. The economy is choppy. Firstly, again, as someone who's sort of in the front line in the trenches, is that something that you are privy to? And to what extent is it the kind of business where the discussions that you have, with the average customer is not just about eggs and milk, but they're talking to you about their life?
Yeah, it's funny. You think about the couple of years of the most extreme parts of COVID in the U.S. All of a sudden, the supermarkets, we stayed open. They were essential workers. People started talking about cashiers and produce people as heroes because every day while everyone was sitting at home safely, these are people, and a lot of them weren't making a ton of money, but they were showing up and getting it done.
Amazing.
And they said, you know what? During that time, some of the customers coming in, we were the only people they interacted with all week. They were in their house locked up. They come in to get food behind masks and gloves, and then they scurried home. And you just think about how they got to get elevated, and then how quickly after it's not over but less strict, people start to go back to the same being a little cranky and everything. But I'll tell you that the most part, we spend time talking about the toughest customers and the problems that we have. The majority of the people are thrilled with what we do for them, and they're happy to hey, our prices are high, but I get it. And it's just it's a good environment, and it's fun because we have stores that are in cities, lower income areas, higher income areas. We have a real mix. And I'll say you can be in any store, and if you have a smile on your face and you're taking care of somebody and you're trying to help them, it's going to be a great interaction 99.9% of the time.
I'm a big believer in attitude and the correlation between your demeanor and the karma. What's the difference, Jim, in your opinion, between being CEO of a pretty large supermarket group and a CEO of a major tech company or CEO of an old economy company? Do you think that ultimately there's certain traits and qualities, that are uniform throughout anyone assuming that type of a leadership position?
Yeah, I think whatever your business and wherever, if you're at the top of the pecking order at the bottom, you have to have the right team around you. You have to have clarity of your business, how you're going to win against your competition, because everybody has competition. You have to have a plan that you can share with your team to make them understand where we're headed and get them working together. We talk about, maybe 3 pillars that really matter, and everything builds off of that. One is communication. We say so much of your day is spent trying to clear up bad communication. So if you can get everybody speaking the same language and doing it effectively and including the people that they should, you're winning. People development is the other. And that is just, everyone says, every company, well, what's your most valuable asset? Oh, it's our people. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing to treat them better than the rest of the world? And that is that constant showing them the opportunity to move up. And then it's execution, right? So I would say the same things if I was running an app, or a tech company or a retailer. Those are the things that you're going to have to do better. And then obviously by your field, it may, you may have more time in certain areas, but it's how are you going to win, and why is a customer going to choose you? Because they have so many great choices every day. And you got to make them glad that they chose you and keep coming back.
So I think you touched on something, but if I threw you right now, Jim, behind a podium back at our alma mater, if I took you back to Harvard and I put you in front of Harvard Business School and I said, ladies and gentlemen, here's a dear friend, the CEO of Inserra Supermarkets, give it up for Jim Dorey, and you're gonna have to give 3 lessons in business, in leadership to the Harvard MBA class. You've earned your stripes, you're a few decades ahead of them. What would you say?
The first thing I'd say is there is only one you. Antony, you have a life experience that's got you here in this room, in this classroom, and no one else in this room or on this planet really has all that has come to form you to where you are. So the perspective that you bring is super valuable, and make sure you share it. And know that the room that you're in there for a reason, and you earned it. Also know that you got to continue to learn every day. The world is going to change around you. You have to be willing as a leader to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be honest with your team, to share with what you're thinking, but to hear what hear what's coming back at you and be approachable so that you won't be surrounded by yes people who only agree with what you tell them, that will push back on you. And then you need to be able to pivot. And then I would say the other piece is it's okay to feel like, am I good enough? Do I have all the answers? Imposter syndrome. Everybody around you has it. They may have it right now, but they had it in the past. And even walking into Harvard for the first time, people are saying, am I smart enough to be here? I mean, this is Harvard. This is different. And it's okay if you're honest with that and you can talk about it. You're gonna come out just fine.
Brilliant advice. So let's take it to the next level. If you could say one business example in your life, if you look back, that was a teachable moment that you're really proud of, that's something, and this is not a time for false humility, like something that you really put your head down, you made a decision and you executed, and that's a tombstone on your legacy, is something that you can look back with, and it's something that you can hopefully use as a springboard to teach others.
Yeah, I'll tell you, coming in, because I've come into a few different organizations and taken over for different leaders, and coming into one where it was that leader needed to be the final say on everything, and needed to be kind of the smartest person in the room all the time, and kind of getting to build a rapport with the team and the top people, and start to pull out of them that I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your ideas. I want you to push back against me. And no, I'm not insecure. I'm not saying I don't know what I'm doing. I'm saying I value all the experience that you're bringing, and slowly starting to get people to speak up and start to make recommendations, and changing that paradigm to say, what we're going to do is any problem that comes our way, we're going to talk about it as a group. You're going to come with the problem, but you're also going to come with recommended solutions. And then together we're going to solve one. And I may not be always the final decision maker. You may come as my executive team and have an idea that I still think I'm against. I'm going to share my thoughts. But if you make a strong enough case, we're going to go with that. And I'm okay with that, and getting people to understand that. I think that's one for me that, is relevant and is super effective, and certainly proud of.
I mean, it sounds like you had to change the whole culture.
I would say so. It's kind of like if you raise your hand and get slapped enough times, you stop raising your hand. So to unteach that reflex, that is a change. That's a shift that doesn't happen quickly, and there'll be some naysayers and people that don't trust that. So you got to bring them along too.
100%. So this is a question I love asking people, because it forces people to take a really press pause and do some serious introspection. If I wired you $100 million when we have the podcast, and there's some astrological miracle that I can do to add 5 hours to your day, what would you do with the fact that you now have a lot more dough and a lot more time?
Me, I first would take a week on a beautiful beach,
and
I would use that to clear my head and think of the best use for this. And I got a lot of uses. The 100 million, I may come back to you and say, can we make it 200 million? But a lot of uses for it. And certainly we're going to help some people with it along the way. I think, you and I have spoken about this. Money at a certain point doesn't really change much for you. After you get past those early years of being able to pay your bills and pay down some of your debt and make sure that your family's going to be okay, another couple zeros anywhere in your bank account or in your weekly check, it doesn't change anything. So you got to be happy with what you're doing. You got to have clarity 100%. Of who you want to help, and then go from there.
And just in terms of time, this is also something that I think our listeners, if I was driving down the freeway and thinking I'm listening to this podcast, I would say 5 years from now, perfect scenario, where would Jim Dorey want to be from a business perspective and a personal perspective? Perfect
business. Yeah, business-wise, I mean, I probably have, a few more than 5 years of running the business that I'm here. I'm just in a year. I love the business. Sure. I love the work that I do. So, it's not like a need or a burnout or anything like that. So continuing to build here. Certainly being on a couple of board of director seats, I think bring a lot to the table, and some friends and connections are working on that. And, I enjoy that. I like to hear about the challenges of other businesses and work there. And then in some real estate development, probably a bit more so. Personal wise, luckily I'm at a good stage, wonderful wife. My kids are, my son's about to enter college. My daughter's a year out of college and working. You hope that they'll continue to do great and start to build their own families and get to enjoy that. I have a lot of family that lives close by that I get to see often. So awesome. Always spending more time with them, and then to have, a group of friends that are like family as well. And then lastly is the network of friends that I developed, yourself included, where, it's time to, really get more quality time where you're sitting down for a weekend and talking about what's going on in life and solving bigger problems.
Yeah, I think and in terms of the nonprofit, the giving back, the making the world a different place, what speaks to you, Jim? I mean, different things speak to different people. Some people want to save dolphins.
Yeah, listen, hunger is always an issue. Probably even more so because I'm in the food business, and you work with some phenomenal people who are making solutions. We've done some great work with Feed the Children, who, is helping to take care of millions of people. The school that I went to, the college I went to, one day I heard that they had a food pantry at the college for the college students. And it was the first time I had heard of it. And I was kind of taken back and saying, man, how sad is it that these kids have made it to this point? They're going to college, yet they're still food insecure, and they need free food and supplies. So try and help there where I can. St. Jude's has always been, something that, you look at those families with these sick kids, and it's tough stuff. So it really, more so, the most part is based around the hunger and some of the companies, some of the people I've met along the way that are doing some phenomenal work to end food waste, because we're probably making enough food to take care of just about everybody. We're just not really using it the best way. So there's a lot of things happening there that I love learning about those companies and then trying to help them to grow.
That's amazing. What is the sentiment you're hearing from customers just about their concerns? I'm sure it waxes and wanes, but we deal with I deal with a lot of influencers, celebrities. I've never seen this amount of stress and anxiety, Jim. People are hypervigilant. They're not sure who to trust. We just had 2 banks that went south. Just a very, very insecure general feeling.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's tough because you're hearing people talk about the price of eggs or the price of butter that never thought about the price of food. They're doing well, yet they say, I can't get my head around something that should be $2 costing $6. The supply chain piece of it, where things aren't available, but they could always get. They're like, I get it, COVID, but that's, so long ago. Why is that still an issue? So there's just a lot of that. And I think some of them are taking the time to understand a little more. They certainly get frustrated. I think there is distrust, right? They don't know who to believe. And, was the egg issue really caused by avian flu and it was a million birds? Who knows? I don't blame them for being skeptical of it. So, I would agree. People are confused, and they're, listen, are we in a recession? Did we have a recession, or is a recession coming? You could click any channel and get it on any one of those statements. That certainly takes its toll on people.
I think, it's interesting. I was just speaking to one of my professors at HBS, just a general thing about leadership. I think you and I have a style where just try to build people up, increase the morale, togetherness. I know a bunch of CEOs that are. It sounds like your predecessor maybe are. It's a benevolent dictatorship, and more. I don't think the younger generation is going to embrace that. The whole culture's changed. And if they feel the guy at the top is just standing there with a whip, it just doesn't work. And I see that more and more. You've got to roll up your sleeves, get to know people, have a rapport. Is that your sense as well?
It is. I think you're on with that, Anthony. I think some of it is too. Even the younger, depending which generation. Some of them, I think for a while it was kind of like, hey, chase whatever makes you happy. Don't worry about a job. Just do what makes you feel fulfilled. And then they start to say, wait a second, everything costs so much more, and I can't I want a house like my parents had or what I grew up in. I can't do that. So what do I do about it? So now I think you get a little, they say, well, no, I need to work. I need to make this happen. And,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of coming full circle. And, the next group is saying, no, I want to be out there making the change. And well, I agree. It shouldn't be the person at the top making 90% of all the money and me at the bottom dealing with one or two. But I know if I can climb that ladder a little bit, then I can help people the rounds.
That's interesting. I think, I've been involved a lot in podcast radio, and I've learned sort of being out there and being very much involved in the public. There's two things I steer clear of, and that's politics and religion, because it can be divisive. But I can't help myself but think the following, because I know you and I know your heart and soul. And that is, I think that we are both believe in a sense of ultimately there's an accountability. We're not hamsters on a treadmill, and we're not here just spinning our wheels, that there's a sense of purpose in this world. What breaks my heart, Jim, is I speak to a lot of Gen Zs. I do a lot of speak on campus and stuff. There's tremendous nihilism. There's no meaning in their life. And how does a person hit a bump in the road and be able to have the grit to move on if there's no sense of meaning, there's no higher power? I'm saying I'm not evangelistic. I'm just trying to understand, as you take God out of the equation, how do people navigate through life?
Yeah, listen, I think it starts with a helping hand from somebody, right? Fortunately, you raised your kids and have a family. They knew they had parents that care about them, love them, and teach them a lot. So they start off on solid foundation, and that's good for a lot of people. But there's so many where that's not the case. Well, what are the programs where you can help them at a younger age to know that somebody's pulling for them, and these programs that are putting them through schools and give them a chance to go to different camps, and just somebody saying, I know that you can do it and I believe in you and we're going to help you along the way. And then they end up making a lot more better choices. And again, to your point, that doesn't matter what your religion is or what you think, but to know that there's good, and then to know that it's not just you and it's not to take the last scrap, but to share it is important. And it's funny. I heard a saying the other day, and it said, joy or happiness shared is multiplied, but grief shared is divided, right? So if you have people around you that you can share the good times with, you're going to be better, and share your problems with, you're going to be better. And we got to just try and take those people that feel isolated and show them another way. I mean, you think of all of these tragedies in these schools, and every time he was a loner and didn't talk to anybody, didn't have any friends. And that's not a good solution for most people.
Yeah, for sure. So the two questions that I ask every single guest, Jim, and it seems to resonate before we wrap up here, and that is, if you could choose anyone in the world, dead or alive, could be a family, could be a famous person, and you get to spend 10 minutes with them, who would that person be?
Antony Gordon, but I'm getting to do that already, so that's an easy one. Now, listen, for me, this question, when it comes up, it is my mother, right? My mother passed,
That's amazing. I love that answer.
Yeah, far too young. I was, 30, but, too young still.
Wow.
And, a lot of things that, my kids grew up without, and to see, even to this day, I just had this conversation with a friend, something that goes on, and you look at your kids and say, wow, wouldn't she have enjoyed that? So
I love that. I'm the same way.
Yeah, wow. No, it's for me. And I just was talking to a friend yesterday. His mother passed. His parents have been married for, I think, 65 years. Wow. And he said, yeah, I was with my dad, and he's struggling. I said, well, let's think of it this way. Your father had your mother for more years than you had your left arm. So if you wake up tomorrow without your left arm, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to remind you of that, and that you're going to miss about that. And he said, yeah, you know what? And that is the perspective, right? I mean, enjoy what you have, but it's never long enough.
100%. Beautiful. It's interesting you say that, because I think one of the people in my life that it's for sure had the most indelible impression, and I got a lot of my values is my mom. And it's amazing how in my head, so many times I say to myself, like you just said, I wish my mom was here to enjoy this. And the final question I ask people, and I think this is very telling as well, is picture the scene, Jim. You are 93 years old, in still as good looking, in great shape. chocolate cake comes out.
I'll take it.
You got your significant other on your left. You got your kids. You got your good buddies. I'm there. You've got, and the boom mic goes around as we record Jim's birthday. What do you want people to be saying about you?
I just say he helped me in so many ways, and he never asked for anything, and he was always there for me. And he really, really enjoyed life.
You know, it's unbelievable, Jim, because I know that that's exactly who you are. And firstly, being a giver and being a selfless person and altruistic, which I know is the way you're wired, and I feel that, and I think that first it always comes back, and I know that there's no quid pro quo, but I also can see that you're in the right business, man. You know, because this is all about giving, it's all about sharing, it's all about being caring. You know, and the world is a better place with Jim Dorey in it. And
thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You know how I feel about you. I said the same. Yeah, you're more amplified. You get to help a lot more people. I'm working on it.
So I want you to continued success. I want to appreciate you spending the time with us here on Adeptus On-Air. And I have no doubt that not only will our paths cross, but we're on this journey together, brother.
Thanks so much, brother. You have a fantastic day, and say hello to the family.
Right back at you.
Thanks.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you have a question related to this episode or have a request for what you would like to hear, please email us at marketing@adeptuscpas.com. You can also find us at adeptuscpas.com online or follow us at Adeptus on social media. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.